Perfect. All right, so we're FightFan.com here, and we're here with the coach, Russ Anber, top Canadian boxing personality of TSN Rival Boxing. How you doing, Russ?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
Oh, excellent. Yeah, we just wanted to maybe catch up.
It's been a while.
Yeah, no doubt. Too long. We wanted to catch up with you and maybe ask you a few things about the exciting things that are going on out there in Montreal at the moment.
Let's go.
Maybe we'll start with the Pascal Dawson fight that was recently announced. Can you kind of give us your thoughts on the matchup itself and the significance of the fight in Montreal?
You know what? I think this is going to be one of the greatest events held in boxing in this city. We were at the press conference, and you could sense the excitement that was surrounding the event. This is going to be Jean Pascal in defense of his title against probably, one of the best fighters to ever make an appearance here in Montreal, and, he's recognized universally as one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the game in Chad Dawson. And I think if Pascal beats him, this will, be the biggest victory over the greatest opponent that a Canadian has beaten on Canadian soil. So, I think this is a huge event and a great opportunity for fight fans, and certainly a massive opportunity for Jean Pascal.
And you've worked with Pascal quite a bit. Could you maybe tell us?
Don't put it in the past tense. He hasn't fired me yet.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't mean that. I'm just you're very familiar with him. And with that said, can you maybe tell us what you think about the style matchup? Like, he strikes me as obviously Dawson is very fundamentally sound, and Pascal maybe a bit more wild. What do you think of the matchup itself?
Well, I wouldn't use the word wild on Jean, because when you say wild, it's almost out of control, and Jean doesn't do anything that's out of control. He is certainly, he's more explosive. There's no doubt about it, and he throws flurries of punches. I think, and we said this at the press conference, I think both of them, both Pascal and Dawson, are going to meet a style and a type of fighter that neither of them have met before. So I think that you're right in the sound fundamentals that is Chad Dawson, and what he can do and how he boxes and the southpaw stance and how conservative he can be and how he brings that safety first style approach and doesn't take any chances. And on the other hand, you've got a guy like Jean Pascal who's he's a crowd pleasing type fighter. He'll box, he'll exchange, he's able to vary in many ways his attacks. So I think, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think both of them are facing a style they've never faced before.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because Dawson is widely regarded as one of the top pound-for-pound fighters, but I don't think he's probably ever dealt with anyone that could maybe match his hand speed and athleticism. And do you think that he has that in front of him in Pascal?
Undoubtedly. I certainly think he does. I think the one thing that people don't realize is that, Jean beat a heck of a fighter in Adrian Diaconu. And I think people forget that. They seem to have written Diaconu off. And I certainly did not dismiss him that easily. I always considered Diaconu very highly. And I don't think that he should be written off that easily. And I certainly think that in terms of athleticism, I think Jean Pascal can match Chad.
When I use the word wild, that might not have been the best choice, but one thing that I've kind of seen from Jean is that he likes to, it seems like he puts himself in harm's way to get off more of his own punches. Is that something he might have to be a bit more cautious of in this match?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot more things he's going to have to be cautious about. I think that, Chad Dawson is a great fighter. And you were right, at least, in saying that he has great fundamentals, and he does. He's well schooled. I worked with Chad Dawson for one fight when he fought Carl Daniels. I was his cut man, and
okay.
I worked with John Scully.
Right, with Scully, yeah.
Long time, great friend of mine, as you well know, and a friend of fight fans. And I've seen Chad from the time he was a 154-pound amateur, and even back then he had outstanding abilities and athleticism, and you could see that he's a talented, gifted guy. He's gifted physically, he's gifted in his talent, he's gifted in his speed. He's a great fighter. I think there's going to be a lot of things that Jean's going to have to be wary of.
From speaking to a few of my American friends that aren't as familiar with Pascal as maybe some of us up here north of the border, the first thing they point out is that, Froch was able to outpoint Pascal. Dawson should be as well. What do you think about that fight with Froch, and what can we take away from that moving forward with the improvements he's made since then?
Well, I think just that. I think that the Froch, the Pascal that Froch beat fight was certainly not the Pascal that beat Diacono. I think that learning experience, the effect of going into England and fighting Froch in his hometown, and I think a perfect example of that, if you wanted to use, is Andre Durrell. You know, look at how Durrell fought Froch, you know, and how he seemed so intimidated and ran from him, and stayed away. And look how he was able to, dominate almost Arthur Abraham prior to being disqualified. Although, that was questionable, the whole thing. But I'm just saying that up until that point, there's no doubt that he was winning the fight in which he was a huge underdog, and no one expected. I think everyone figured that if Froch was able to manhandle Durrell, then certainly Abraham would be able to do so, and in fact did not. So, I think Jean came out of that experience, a more mature fighter. He went into that fight probably with Froch, as a boy, and came out as a man.
Well said. And with regards to that, do you think he's feeling a little bit more comfortable at 175 since the move up? He looks very solid at that weight.
I think that's probably another thing. I've never been of the mindset of fighters sucking weight and struggling to make weight, and I think evidence of that has been with some of the fights that I've taken for David Lemieux, where we have fought over the 160-pound limit. I'd rather concede a few pounds with my fighter than have my fighter suffer to make weight. So, I think it's this new modern age of boxing where the weigh-in taking place the day before the fight has just given fighters this license to suck off as much weight as they possibly can because, it's okay, I've got more than 24 hours to put it all back on, and they think that they can just suck themselves down and then really come into the ring at a weight that is not really their weight class. So, I think that in Jean's case, he feels comfortable at 75, as does Dawson, and, I think at least you're looking at two guys that are legitimate light heavyweights and not really cruiserweights sucking down to make light heavy.
And he's had a good 6-7 months since the last fight now. How is the shoulder, as far as you can tell? Is that...
It's, as far as I know, it's fine. There hasn't been any complaints about it. The surgery went well. The recuperation went well. There's been no indication of any problems whatsoever. But like I've explained to everybody, it certainly wasn't something that, we were expecting to happen in the Diacono fight either. This was not something that you could say was an injury that reoccurred or, that it had been a problem in training camp. I mean, he was perfectly healthy, fine, and, looked very good in training camp for the second Diacono fight. And then, the piece of bone breaks in his shoulder blade. I mean, you can't anticipate that. This was not like a reoccurring injury. This wasn't muscular. This wasn't a nagging injury. This was just something that happened in the fight. And, the operation could have been 1,000% successful. The rehabilitation could have been 10,000% successful. Hell, something could happen with the other shoulder, touch wood it doesn't. But I mean, there's no, the kind of injury that it was nothing anybody could have foreseen.